Call this meeting to order. This is the Breezy Point City Council, November 2nd, 2015. It is 7 o'clock. First order of business is pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is our consent calendar. You have before you the minutes from October 5th, 2015, and the approval of claims in the check register for claims totaling $319,302.96, which includes checks 1384E through 1386E and paper checks 132292 through 132347. I'll entertain a motion, or is there anybody that would like anything pulled off of the consent calendar and spoken of separately? Councilman Maroney?
No.
Councilman Schmidt?
No.
Councilman Williams?
No.
Councilman Bakken?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved. There is no visitor presentation for tonight. That was a typo in the agenda left over from last month. So the next item of business is the open forum. Anybody wishing to bring anything before the city council, you can do so at this time. Open forum is open. Anybody would like to come? And I would like to recognize the former mayor, Joanne Weaver.
Joanne Weaver, 9914 Weavers Point Road. It's been a while since I've stood on this side of the table, but when I did come to you last, it was regarding the pods or the portable units. And I can see there's been a great deal of discussion since that time. I've looked at planning and zoning notes. I see the sample ordinance, the proposed ordinance in tonight's packet. I'm really sorry to see it, to tell you the truth. I don't think we need another ordinance because we have a whole book full and a lot of them never get enforced. So why are we adding something else that I see as somewhat controversial? There's nothing about occupancy. You know, should anybody be living in these? We assume that they wouldn't do that, but there's nothing here to address that. Everything on here, points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all require some degree of oversight. Measuring distance, counting, number of days, how many pods. Somebody's going to have to enforce this, and I don't see enforcement happening a great deal in any of our other ordinances. So I really caution you to move forward on this, even though it's been in front of planning and zoning for quite some time. So that's what I have to say. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Joanne, you seem to be really on top of this. Is this total, like you think, totally unworkable, or should we try to incorporate what you suggested? What would you think we should do as an alternative if people are going to be using these all over the place?
Well, do we want them to use them all over
No.
the place? That's the thing. I think about looking out your front door. I mean, thoughts sort of start percolating when we look at our own surroundings, and you know, if we're adding one more way for people to bring things in and just, I mean, I see the language about driveways and where you're going to sit it and how it's going to calculate into the total impervious surface. I think it's a mistake to go down this road, because to do it per the ordinance, it's going to take somebody to do it.
So in other words, you're saying disallow.
That's my bottom line, yes. But thank you for clarifying that.
And I think that was discussed to totally disallow it, and I think the decision was made, you can't really disallow them because this is a commercial venture that is available to the public to store things in temporarily while they're getting ready to move. So,
And every city around us allows it?
I don't know about every city around us, but this is it's a business that's been around for many years. I don't really. That was, I think, one of the issues. I think Commissioner Bakken, if you might be, or Councilman Bakken, if you might be able to maybe help a little bit, because I think you were probably in on some of the discussion. As far as, was there any discussion as to other ordinances and those types of things?
No, not to my recollection, there wasn't. However, I do agree with Mayor Weaver. She brings up a good point. Occupancy, which I don't recall anybody discussing that. And I think that's a very good issue. As far as disallowing, that was discussed, and the consensus was just as the mayor stated, and I would have to agree with that, but I would, the occupancy, absolutely. And there may be another change that I'd like to see down the road when we discuss this. So thank you for your input.
Thank you. I'm going to just say one more thing, regarding the fact that they're out there and we can't say no, then anybody that's out there with anything that they're selling or they want to bring in and use, we can't say no. I mean, you have to take that premise and extend it across all things. And I find that, we are, I think, still the third largest city in Crow Wing County. If not, we're close to that. And, we have a lot of full-time residents. That's why we're the third largest city. And they didn't come here because this is the Wild West, and you can do whatever you want to do and put these things in somebody else's, line of vision in their front yard. So I'll sit down. I've said my piece, but you know how I feel. Thank you.
Not so fast, not so fast. There's more questions.
Yeah, not so fast.
I just want to clarify, because what I think I heard you say was we should be mindful, well, I think I heard you say that just passing another ordinance, that's fine, but we don't seem to enforce the ones we have.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, we are mindful of that, and we had discussions at previous council meetings about enforcement. Now, I think, as I understand it, the P&Z is on notice, or they have placed the city on notice that they are going to be the kind of the watchdogs in town, and when they see something, they will bring it to the attention of the staff, and then the staff will take appropriate action based on the ordinance. Now, that's my understanding. Is that right, Gary?
Yeah.
So then we come back to if the P&Z is bringing these situations, like, for example, if somebody brings if this ordinance passes and they bring a pod in to the city, and it exceeds whatever the standards are that we're going to be looking at in the ordinance,
Yeah.
And I think we're going to make a motion.
the P&Z will bring that to the attention of the staff, and then the enforcement process begins. That's the way I understand it's supposed to work. And I think the mayor is right when he notes that I think legally, if you just say we're just going to disallow something, I think we ran into that with the adult entertainment statute, where our legal counsel informed us that you can't disallow it. You have to provide standards in placement, for example, for that particular use. This is essentially, that's what we're doing here, I think. But
That's correct. That is indeed correct.
so.
Well, I guess I will just refresh your memory on all those toys. I'll put them under one heading: boats, trailers, planes, automobiles, name it, that sit out in yards and they don't get moved, and we drive past them. Nobody ever, I can't see a P&Z member, if that's in their new job description, taking a tape measure, a calendar, and counting the number of days that whatever it is has been sitting in a particular spot. Nothing's going to happen. That's my feeling. So if there are no more questions, I'm happy to entertain any. I'll just sit down and listen to the proceedings. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to.
Anybody else for open forum?
Mr. Mayor, can we still continue some discussion?
Well, I think we'll wait for the discussion for
Good,
when
thank
we
you.
talk about it later.
Very well.
So open forum is closed. On the mayor reports, I did have the honor to attend the Outstanding Citizen Ceremony, Distinguished Service Ceremonies last Thursday, and our own Jason Reiber was the Outstanding Community Service Provider of the Year for Crow Wing County. And I'd like to just read the write-up that they had for him that night. People who live in a small community know that its citizens take care of each other. Officer Jason Reiber finds satisfaction and personal fulfillment in taking care of his small community of Breezy Point and making it a better place. Before answering the call to protect and serve, Officer Reiber works as a paramedic. After joining the Breezy Point Police Department, Officer Reiber recognized the need for additional life-saving equipment and spent much of his spare time passionately campaigning for funding. Indeed, Officer Reiber rarely misses an opportunity to volunteer his time and skills. But Officer Reiber is also humble in his efforts and would be the first to say that many of his great achievements are the product of a team effort. Officer Reiber is a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, North Crow Wing First Responders, and a member of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Decorated with 5 life-saving awards and several commendations from the Breezy Point Police Department, Officer Reiber strives to ensure that the community in which he has chose to raise his sons is a safer place to live and visit. This award that he received was last Thursday, presented by the Crow Wing County JCs, and when Jason got up and spoke just shortly, the first thing he did was to commend all of those people that had helped him, and he was very, very humble, thanking not only his parents, but Kevin Mershman as his boss, as a mentor and a role model for him and how he conducts himself. And I just think that he is well deserving of this award. Next item is members of the city council, or the Crow Wing County Meter Relief Program has been, the Crow Wing County Board of Directors has met in October to review the municipal meter relief program and decided to continue the program for another year. And under the municipal meter relief program, the city of Breezy Point has 14 meters, and the cooperative will be forgiving the monthly fee, service fee, in which accounts of $2,688 under this program. In the past 20 years, we have saved over $28,000 in meter relief. This is a program that gets redone every year, and essentially they rebate us the service cost for all the meters, which is greatly appreciated. Other reports? Councilman Bakken?
Nothing as far as planning and zoning goes. I was unable to make that meeting.
Right.
However, I will be going down on the 4th with the chair of the Planning Commission for a re-education in planning and zoning procedures.
Very good.
A refresher for me and a teaching study for him.
Councilman Williams?
I don't have anything to bring up.
Okay. Councilman Schmidt?
Mayor, I have an item here that I'd like to have you pursue with staff, and that has to be with how we take care of vacancies on various commissions within the city. The reason I bring this up, as you know, we now have the benefit of observing the meetings of the P&Z, for example, on YouTube, as we do with the council meetings. And boy, it looks pretty thin when you look at that group that's sitting there deliberating on important issues to the city. And I understand we have one vacancy now. We reduced the size of the P&Z down to 5 members, right?
We have 5, we have currently 4, and we have 2 applicants at this juncture.
And I guess I'm kind of curious as to how we provide notice, how we find people who might be interested in volunteering their time. You know, we're grateful for people like Brian Smansky, for example, who volunteered to serve on the Park and Rec Committee, great addition to that committee. I think that's great, but, you know, we've got to get people to participate, I guess is what I'm saying. I'd like to see more effort in tracking down, and I would be glad to offer some ideas as to how I think we should go about.
Yeah.
Didn't we used to at one time, I think Joanne maybe knows this better than I, but when we were sending out a publication, we were looking for people to volunteer, I think, for those various commissions. Am I right on that?
We used to publish it in the paper.
But didn't we have something we sent out from the city hall that went to everybody in town that was, this was before Joe's time, I think, but
May I respond?
Yes, you can.
We did have a citywide newsletter at one time.
Right.
And that was back in 2007 or 8, and that was a good way to let people know that there were some openings. But we no longer have a newsletter. So,
I think we do it now. Do we, I think we use our webpage?
We do it, yeah.
It's on the webpage, it's posted at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could it go out with the sewer billing? Isn't there room on there for notices?
But it's still not mailed.
Sewer bills are mailed. They're quarterly
That
though.
would get the people on sewer,
Yeah,
some,
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah.
No, I am fully aware of the, the vacancy problem, and I have been, we only had one applicant for a while, and I've been calling people to find out and see if they would like to, and everybody here, all of the council members, if they know somebody that would be a good candidate, please cajole them, give them applications. That's what I've been trying to do, because we don't have a really good network to get this information out, so it's kind of by word of mouth. So anything we can do to get in more applications. We have 2 or 3 openings on other commissions, don't we?
What about the cemetery?
Cemetery's full currently, but it will be.
Currently?
Yeah, there's one person going off. We did get a second application for the planning commission on Friday. I think the park board's full now.
Park board full now?
I believe it is.
Okay.
So we're pretty well full, I think, for the most part, except for the planning commission,
Till the end of the year.
till the end of the year.
Like I say, word of mouth, neighbors that you may think would be qualified to sit on the commission, please get them to fill out an application. Yes, that is an issue.
Can I make a statement as well?
Yes.
And one thing that we've discovered thanks to having Bryant on is he brings a lot of expertise because he's been active in sports in the community and he's got kids. So we need young people. We got Mike. We need more young people who have a different perspective and different experience and are willing to step forward. But because the cemetery commission talks about it a lot, there's a shortage of people, say under 60 maybe.
Really?
Yes.
Be careful.
I think I'm
What
being
you wish
generous.
for.
I think I'm being generous with that age. But we especially want some young people with great ideas. So.
So what I hear
And
you
that can
saying
go in
is,
the paper.
what I hear you saying is we're supposed to reject old people.
No. Inclusive.
Anything else?
No.
Councilman Rowan? I have nothing to. Okay. Well, next order of business is the, our PODS ordinance, ordinance 1507. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of an amendment to the zoning ordinance to add language addressing the regulation of portable on-demand storage units. They have looked into this for a couple months now, and they have put together ordinance 1507. I will entertain a motion for the approval of ordinance 1507.
I'll make that motion to approve.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. I'll start with you, Commissioner Maroney.
I had a chance to review the ordinance and in taking into consideration of things that were brought up at our open forum, you know, I go back to the language of that it's a container, storage unit, shed-like container, or other portable structure. I don't see any room for that people could interpret that as living in them. I'm okay with us sending it back to add in living with them, but I think it's okay as it's written. I think there is a place for these. I think they're a benefit to a homeowner who's wishing to move. It offers a probably costly solution for them to rent a portable unit. I myself looked into them when we remodeled. The cost is pretty expensive to have one of these versus renting a storage unit actually in town. So for me, it didn't pay to actually move forward with this. Somebody's got to actually invest a pretty good deal into actually renting one of these. But I think it'd be something good for somebody to be able to use. I see that we have it available for construction site as well, which we allow camping during construction. So, you know, again, this is allowing somebody to move up here to start building a home and being able to live on that property and keep all their belongings there. So, I agree with it.
Councilman Schmidt.
Well, I heard the concern expressed by Mayor Weaver, former Mayor Weaver. I guess it's just like the Secretary of State or the President. Once you've been one, you always,
You take it with you forever.
I think forever. But I heard Mayor Weaver's concern about where she, and rightly so, didn't see anything in there that had talked about that the pod could not be used as a living quarter, but that could be easily solved just by adding it as a number 6 under B. And I might suggest language would just say that a pod under any circumstances cannot be used as a living quarter. And I'd offer that as an amendment to that ordinance.
Okay.
But I think we have to have something that allows us to set standards, otherwise these things will be moved in, and when we do have problems, we won't have any leg to stand on except to try and talk nice to the person, and sometimes you know, that works and sometimes it doesn't.
Councilman Williams.
Yeah, I have a few issues with this. I'd like to ask Joe, must these be allowed in the city? Is that a requirement? We must allow them just because they exist on Earth?
Well, like Otto was saying, if you don't set standards, they can bring them in and use them.
What if we say they can't come here?
Well, I mean, probably could prohibit them, but it's easier to work with people if you allow them for a period of time under certain circumstances.
Well, I have a couple questions then. And
Sure.
Is the truck down the way here, is that considered a pod, the finger hut truck that's been there?
Thank you.
It's a construction trailer, and yes, it's allowed, and it's not considered a pod.
So is there any limit on that thing?
Well, not specifically, no.
So it can stay there for 3-4 years?
No, when the house is done, it's going to get moved out.
Okay. Well, I find some things in this language confusing because it says they can't be here in excess of 60 days, nor more than 60 days in a calendar year. Then it says they can be permitted for the duration of construction. Now, I believe constructing a home is probably going to be a little more than 60 days. So I find that confusing. And then I wonder, is there any limit to the size of these things? Can we limit the size? How big are they? Or, you know, do they come in different sizes? I don't even know.
You know, we had a brief discussion about that, and they basically come in one size or a smaller size, but they, I mean, yeah, I don't really know, to be honest with
I
you.
think this, if we're going to allow them, an enforcement issue, but if we're going to allow them, I think we should have it pretty tight as to what we want and what we expect and what we'll tolerate with them. I think it should be pretty stringent and then enforced.
Mr. Mayor? I think most of these, if I'm not mistaken, pods are refurbished containers that they use in container shipping. They're either 20 feet or 40 feet.
Yeah.
Those are the two sizes, that's a standard. I'm not familiar with any other type of, and I think that the business grew because of the refurbished containers that they had available. Somebody decided this would be a good deal. I know people that have used them. I had a neighbor that used it recently when he moved. I think they placed it on his property and they filled it up with their belongings, and 7 days later it was picked up and it was gone. But that's,
Well, I just know that I would not want to look at one whole summer building season on my neighbor's property in the front yard, blocking my view. I would be very upset with that.
We've done just that on the trailer,
Yeah,
when they're all summer,
yeah. So
and still is.
I don't, this either needs more work or we shouldn't allow them at all, but I think we need to have that question answered.
Councilman Baca.
Well, I had all kinds of notes. Otto destroyed one, which is good, and I'm in total agreement with him. There's an enforcement issue that Diane has repeatedly brought up in the last 4 or 5 council meetings, and I might as well address that right now and then move on down the list, a couple more. Otto has also made some remarks about enforcement issue, and it's not, things are not being enforced. I would have to agree with both of those two counselors on that. We've always had an enforcement issue here. And as far as policing that, I think the discussions at planning commission level, if I remember right, were that, Joe, you might be able to help me with this, that burden would of course fall upon the zoning administrator. And he acknowledged same, sitting in the seat right where you are. I recall that very distinctly. Not any people on the planning commission. And being on several of those, we discussed that ourselves and found it very uncomfortable for a planning commission member to go out there and, excuse me, you got to move this. So I think the impetus and the consensus as far as enforcement lies solely in the lap of the zoning administrator. And you quite eloquently brought that to the attention a meeting or so ago about he's paid to do the job. Do it. One other thing there, and then I'll move on to the, in fact, I may have destroyed most of them. Again, as far as the administrator goes, and this is just my opinion, I firmly believe because of the weight that position carries and the responsibility it carries, I personally, as a council member, would like to see the zoning administrator here at every council meeting. I think that is a responsibility inherent in that position. That's my own personal hope, and I think it's incumbent upon this council to discuss that. Trailer, Diane destroyed that. That's been there all summer. I have been going to make mention of it, and I have not until this point in time that this issue was brought up. It's been there all summer. It's still there, and I don't know how much, it'll probably be there all winter. And I don't like looking at that long either. Diane had the question about, and I'm almost done, about times. Well, the structure must not remain at the property in any zoning district, blah, 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 in excess of 60 days, nor more than 60 days in a calendar year. I think that is adequate for anybody building a house. If you're going to build a house, you can plan to do it. You got 60 days and you move it. That again is a responsibility of the zoning administrator to enforce. And I'm done with what I had to say.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
In regards to the semi-trailer that's on County Road 4, it is a semi-trailer. Can you regulate what's parked in your property?
Oh, I think we can regulate something like that, Counselor. I certainly do. It's an eyesore. And it's not addressed in any of our ordinances. I think that's something that the Planning Commission should consider, whether or not it's done, but I think it's important.
Agreed. I caution you because, you say it's an eyesore, which to some it may be, but to some, a boat may be an eyesore in your parking lot.
Well, I would agree.
RV may be an eyesore to some people.
It's an eyesore to me, and it's the Planning Commission's baby to wrestle with, as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to see it forwarded to the Planning Commission. In fact, I would ask that that's done. You want a motion in that?
We're not getting to that point.
All right, very good.
We're talking about the ordinance 1507
Yeah,
at this
did you have
point.
comments on this specifically now, Gary?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? A pod, just by its exact nature, is a portable structure. The primary use is primarily to load things up, put them into a temporary storage, and then move them to someplace else. Typically what happens is the pod gets delivered to somebody that is moving or remodeling or something like that. It's there for a short period of time, and in most cases, it's being used for a moving vehicle. The homeowner loads it up, and then it gets shipped to a different state or a different location. This is a business that has been around for quite a while. We cannot just arbitrarily disallow everything. And as far as a pod being used as a construction storage, one of the biggest problems with contractors nowadays is theft. And if they want to put a construction trailer, and they may want to use a pod to do that, they have some place to lock up their tools. That is allowed for the duration of the construction while the building permit is active. Once the building permit has been either expired or the building is completed, the construction trailer or the pod, if they're using that to store tools, is to be removed. And that is covered in here. You can't tell a homeowner that he's not allowed to rent something. And that's what he's doing. He's renting a storage thing that he needs to use temporarily.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do they require a permit?
A permit for a pod?
Yeah.
No.
Well, how do
Well, I
we know
mean-
how long they're sitting there? If you don't know the date they came until someone says, hey, I've seen this thing here for a month.
Okay, let me give you a different example. Let's say you're doing construction, you bring out a bobcat. We don't require to have a bobcat there, they just bring it out, and that may be parked there for 6 months while they're doing construction. What's the difference between a bobcat and a pod?
Bobcat's smaller. Would fit
Not
in a
much,
pod.
not much,
Would fit in a pod.
not much. So I mean, if you're using it for as construction storage, it is essentially a tool of the construction business.
There's some on a residential property, on the way to Brainerd, I pass it on my way to work, and they've been sitting there since shortly after that storm in July. That's way more than 60 days, so.
And that's a different jurisdiction.
No, but I'm just saying how long they can end
And
up being
how
there.
they do it in other jurisdictions,
Well, maybe that's a good
That's
question.
not on the table here.
Well, maybe that's a good question. We should find out where this was a sample one, or if they created this from scratch, or how
What
this
this
came
is
to be?
what this is doing is it's giving us an ordinance that we can have on the books, and we can enforce it if the problem gets out of hand, or if it is becoming rampant within the city. Pods are not rampant within the city. We've had like 1 or 2 of them, okay? I think we're going, a good distance by having this, and we have it, something codified in our ordinances so that we have something that we can enforce if we do need to, okay? We cannot blanketly disallow everything. Because that's, I think, what is actually being proposed is, we don't want to allow this because I think it looks ugly. This kind of gets back to, several years back, we wanted to disallow blue tarps. Okay, you cannot legislate everything. Some things have to be allowed as far as commerce goes within the city.
Mayor?
Yes.
I think Diane raises an issue, and I would ask, if I could, a question of Joe regarding a permitting factor. Was that discussed at all when this?
It was discussed. They went back and forth probably a couple times. They finally decided that we didn't want to issue permits, but it was something that we needed to acknowledge when one came into town. I don't really know exactly why they landed on that, but they just decided a permitting process was a little cumbersome.
Well, I think it's also cumbersome to try and determine how long a pod has been
Bingo.
in place. And,
Bingo.
and, again, I think there's several things that have come up this evening that may require to send this back to P and Z. We have the issue of these pods being used for residing in them, living in them, which I would find kind of crazy, especially in a hailstorm. It would be
Pretty nice.
an interesting experience. But also the size factor comes into play, because I think a 40-foot container is, they're,
Pretty hard to maintain
well, I mean,
a
they're,
40-foot container and a 30-foot setback.
well, exactly, and although we have, areas in town where somebody could probably bring in a 40-foot container, but I'm not so sure that we shouldn't restrict it just to 20-foot or less.
Well, Otto, you bring up the size, if somebody absolutely needed a 40-footer, unfortunately in their case, they might have to get a 20-footer, load that up, haul it off, get another 20-footer. So I mean, allowing a 20-footer still
Yeah.
allows them to be able to.
But I think a 40-footer might be considered, a little more obtrusive than a 20-footer would be.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about that semi-trailer that's parked down there. I'm not exactly sure what the dimensions are that are, but it's obvious 40 feet or longer.
Looks like a 55-foot.
55-footer, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds if I may.
Okay, just a second. Anything else?
No,
Just to follow up on, piggyback on Otto and Diane. Totally agree with both of them. An addition for occupancy, number 6, as Otto brought up, and the permitting process. I was there. I was in the discussions. It made sense at the time. However, the permitting process and the enforcement process, a permit issued, then the administrator knows when he can go out and see if the thing is moved, and if it's not, then the enforcement action begins. So I think a permitting process added to it. Does that not make sense? It does to this Norwegian brain, and I'd like to see that added and go back to the P&Z, unless we can fix it on site. Can we do that?
We probably could, but I think it'd be better if the planning commission
Thank you very
revisits
much.
it.
That's all I have, Mayor.
The concept of permitting, I think I would agree with planning and zoning as of right now, where it'd be very difficult, because this is not the type of thing that a permit would normally be taken out for, as far as when you call up and you rent something, when you rent a truck, when you rent a trailer, when you rent something. Permitting process normally is not part of that rental agreement. So it would create, I think, some problems having it, but if that's, what it would take. Keep in mind, right now, because we don't have any ordinance on it, pods are allowed anywhere. Because we don't have anything specifically restricting them. So the question is, do we have a real problem with pods where we need to have really strict ordinance on them? Or do we have a guideline that we would like to have in place so that we have some mechanism of ordinance? So that's really the question. Do you want to legislate everything, or do you want to have something in place, find out if you really have a problem with abuse and with administering it, then
I'd like to call the question.
okay.
Good.
We'll call the question.
Could I ask one
Yes,
question before?
yes.
I understand where you're going with it, Mr. Mayor, but, I think it could be easily resolved tonight, and the P and Z could also look at it if we pass it. But adding number 6, shall not be lived in, add number 7, size up to 20 feet, and add number 8, must have a permit.
Bingo.
And we could pass that. We could propose that tonight.
I wouldn't go along with 8, because I don't think.
Well, let's put it to a vote.
Put it to a vote. The question is called.
Well, the question is called on
As
1507,
it
as it's written right now.
As it exists, you're right.
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
I'll make a new motion.
Wait a minute,
Wait,
I
wait,
called
wait,
the
wait,
question,
wait,
we
wait,
need to
wait.
vote right away.
No, we called the question on 1507, so
Okay.
we will take a vote on 1507. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Maroney, or Councilman Maroney, keep screwing that up. Councilman Maroney, would you wish to make an amendment?
I'll make a new
to
motion.
ordinance 1507.
Amending 1507, adding language of number 6, and work speaking can be done by city administrator, planning and zoning administrator, shall not be lived in. Adding number 7, size limitation up to 20 foot in length. And number 8, must obtain a permit.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion. Councilman Maroney, I'll let you go.
Nope, I think that is addressing our concerns tonight, and I like the permitting thing. I don't foresee him coming into town that often, so I think if it comes up and somebody says, hey, there's a pod here, I think it gives the zoning administrator to easily go out and say, hey, you need a permit. Might have been there for a couple of days, but hey, now we've had a complaint, we can move forward, we get it addressed.
Councilman Schmidt,
I have no further comments.
Councilman Bakken,
None, sir.
Councilman Williams.
Yeah, I still have a question. Can someone explain to me that item 2 under B, it says no more than the 60 days, but under 4, you can have it the whole time of constructing a home.
They're two totally different things. One is a pod, meeting the definition of a pod. The other is a construction trailer. Two totally different things.
Okay, now, can we, I have a question for Joe. Do we have to set a fee for the permit, or how do we do that? Can we say that we need a permit when we don't have any language, or what do we do with this?
We'll have to work on a permit. It'd probably be a zoning permit, and that'd be $50 because zoning permits are $50. Now, when it comes to construction, that would be part of the building permit process, and we'll just add that in.
I like it.
Now, I never did get my question answered before. Is this something they created, or is this a sample from some other jurisdiction?
They looked at probably 6 or 8 different ordinances and picked and chose from those as to the attributes, if you will, or the conditions they thought were appropriate, and this is what they ended up with.
And they worked hard on it.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Point of order, no second to that motion.
Yeah, I
He
second.
seconded.
Did you second it?
Yes.
Okay, take that back.
Those opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Entertain a motion to the summary ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ordinance is approved as amended. Joe will get final wording on that? Yep. Okay. Next item of business is purchase of tax forfeited property, lots 24, 25 of White Birch 9. The county has released a number of properties for sale that were tax forfeit. These were these two lots that mentioned. The properties were identified in the sale that was considered of interest to the city. These are adjacent to the wastewater treatment facility.
Oh. You going, or you want the motion?
Okay. Well, if you want the motion, I won't further speak.
No, I would make a
Entertain a motion.
motion for Resolution 1521, purchasing the lot.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Additional, next item of business is the addition of hiring of part-time police officers. The department currently has 3 deputies on the roster. Scott Goddard hasn't worked in several years. Travis Loeffler, now assigned to the Lakes Area Drug Investigative Division. And Adam Cronstedt, who is now the boat water sergeant, including ATVs. Because of conflicts with scheduling, we have requested to, Chief has requested that we would hire Sherry File and Matt Jorgens as part-time officers contingent upon successful completion of all city and post requirements.
So moved.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Any questions?
Any discussion, further discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've got a question.
Yes.
When these part-time officers are with us, do they drive other vehicles? Not, I'm guessing not their own, they drive our city vehicles?
Correct, they drive one of the squads.
One of the squads, so they just kind of rotate who's off?
Who's off is who they'll drive.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
These are hired. Next item is the wage increase for non-union employees, as well as information on dental and healthcare costs. The Personnel Committee did not make a recommendation and decided that the council should discuss this as a whole. The union contract calls for a 3.5% increase in wages for 2016. And in checking with other communities, you can see those listed there. We do have adequate money in the budget to deal with a 3.5% increase. The consideration of resolution to approve 3.5% would be appreciated.
I'll make a motion then.
Second.
Discussion. Councilman Wood? No.
Yeah, I think we have to be giving fair treatment to our employees, whether they're union or non-union. This would seem to be equal.
Councilman Pocket?
I totally agree with that.
Councilman Schmidt?
Well, this is why I think we wanted it to come to the council for discussion, because I like to see everybody go on record expressing their opinion. I expressed mine last year when we looked at that contract, and I thought it was excessive. And I hope that's remembered the next time we go into negotiations. I think it's nice that Breezy Point can be a leader, but now all of a sudden we're becoming a leader, and I'm looking at what these other communities around here are doing, and I think it's indicative of the way the economy's going. It's not nearly as good as I think some people would like us to believe, and at this stage of the game doesn't warrant a 3.5% increase. But it is what it is. That contract with the police department, with the officers in the union and the police department, says 3.5, and I think we have to be fair to the rest of the staff.
Councilman Maroney?
During the contract negotiations, there were a give and take with that contract. You know, the 3.5 was arrived because of other things that were given up from the union employees. So I just wanted to make that mention. That's all. I wasn't against the 3.5, but that was in the back of my mind, is that during negotiations there was definitely give and take. I don't believe that our staff is not deserving of it, but it's something to keep in mind, perhaps on the third year, that we look into it and keep that in mind.
I totally agree with Councilman Maroney. There was a lot of give and take, and there was some, a lot of discussion as to how we arrived at that. And the bottom line and the end result was, both sides thought that was fair.
Mayor?
Yes.
One other point, and I say this for the audience and just so everybody's aware of it. When you do a 3.5, the way we're set up right now, as I understand it, Joe, the entire step chart takes a 3.5% increase.
Correct.
Across the board. Every step goes up 3.5%. You're going to have people who are not only getting a 3.5, but because of longevity and whatever, they get an automatic step increase. Again, that's automatic. That's the way the state does it with state employees. You can sleep under your desk and you can get a 3.5% increase. That's the way it happens. So the cost to the city is a little bit more when you start to really look at all the ramifications than just the straight 3.5 across the board, because that 3.5 moves with the step increase. There's no more performance performance increases. It's all automatic, 3.5.
That is correct, Otto. The only thing I'll point out, though, is that, you know, we do have annual reviews, and if a employee is not performing, they're not held by any, on a non-union basis, they're not held by any contract. If they're not performing, they are simply let go. If that is the case, if they are sleeping underneath their desk, as you per se, not to use that exact one, but we have the right to let go. I don't think our caliber of employees are doing such a thing, but we have that ability to.
And essentially, that was going to be the next thing I was going to mention, was the fact that personally, I think we have some really good staff of employees here in Breezy Point. From the maintenance of the roads, snow plowing, everything. I think they do an outstanding job, and I really think that the city of Breezy Point should be the employer of choice for people that want to work in city government. And if you pay a good wage, you're going to get a good person to go along with it. So that's why I would. That's why I'm in favor of this.
Final comment. I totally agree with that. We have some of the best people that I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and that's longer than what I like to talk about.
I'll call a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3.5%. The rest of this memo that you have from Joe details the changes with and the options with the dental benefits and the medical benefits. There's nothing else that this is essentially provided as information.
Correct.
We don't need to do anything with that. Next order of business, the change of status from introductory employee to regular employee for Brian Szymanski. He was hired with the understanding that he would be a regular employee after he completes his introductory period and obtains his commercial driver's license. He is going to be receiving that CDL on November 11th, which would make him eligible as a regular employee, and also be moving from the starting step to the next step, moving him from $15.80 to $16.16 per hour. Consideration of resolution to second?
Second?
Clarification, the job description is to obtain and maintain?
Yes, it does say maintain.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Brian Zemansky is a regular employee. Delinquent utility fees. This is kind of an annual thing. We have delinquent accounts on the sewer system. Seems like there's always one person that just doesn't like to pay for any reason. And we also have some that physically can't be disconnected, and their bills are in arrears. Resolution 1522 will certify the delinquent sewer bills to the tax rolls for the parties shown. Consider Resolution 1522.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion, Councilman Bakken?
None.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are some of these for more than 1 year?
Yes,
Yes.
they would be for more than 1
So
year.
then when it gets put on their, wasn't it put on their taxes last year? Did they not pay it then?
No, once they meet a certain threshold, they're eligible for certification. We try to work with them in collection. At least one of these persons was on a payment plan. They reneged on the payment plan, those kinds of things. And so, yes, it is more than 1 year.
Councilman Braun?
No.
Councilman Schmidt?
No.
All those in favor of Resolution 1522, certifying the delinquent utilities?
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution 15 is adopted. Next order of business is kind of a strange one. A woman was basically trying to look for her lot, and it appears like there was a mix-up as to where her lot was and where the city's lot were located. And essentially, when we paved the road out to the end, her lot never got paved because we thought that was actually our lot. Turns out it's not. So to make a long story short, we've come up with some options as to how to resolve this situation. The first paragraph there is essentially option one, we'll call it, and that's to trade lots with her. In other words, if you look at your plot map over there where it says my lot, that's lot 30, that belongs to the woman in question. And it's in between the two city lots, 29 and 31. The proposal would be to trade lot 29 with lot 30, giving her access to that lot. However, she would like to actually sell the lot, and the third paragraph down there is essentially option two, and that would be to purchase the lot from her. We don't have a price on it at this point. It would be a private purchase from her, if we would want to have that lot. The third option, which is the fourth paragraph down there, and really there's two sub-options to that. One is do nothing. The do nothing, we could extend the road by paving it out to her lot, relatively short distance. However, she would probably be the only one that would benefit from that and would be assessed the cost of the improvement. The other one would be do nothing and just grade the road, in other words, just a gravel road out to her property.
Mayor, I would move that the city of Breezy Point approach this person, the seller, to get an indication as to the price the property owner would be willing to sell for, and then bring that back to the council.
Okay, this is, basically, we're not really deciding anything here, just we're discussing, what direction we want to give to the administrator.
That's
I
the
think
direction I
that's-
want to give the
I think that's a
administrator.
reasonable.
Is that a motion, Otto?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. The motion is essentially to get a price for the lot, and we'll bring it back to
Okay.
further clarify the options. All those in favor?
Question?
Oh, question, discussion, I'm sorry. Councilman Maroney.
The property, I did not look this up, but the property to the east, is that a private party that owns that, or?
Oh, lot 6?
ending in
Beyond the end of Dakota Drive, the city owns all that.
the city owns that parcel.
Yeah, that's part of the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep. That's all I had.
Councilman Schmidt? Any more questions? Councilman Williams? No. Councilman Baca?
Blank look. No. I don't know why we wanted to begin with, but
Well, the motion is that we
Yeah.
would.
That'll be
get a
determined
price,
later, yes.
And then we'll bring it
Yes.
back. So, all those in favor?
I,
It's the direction we shall give to the administrator. Last item of business is certification of a SAC charge. This had to do with a property owner on Airport Road that had bought a hangar. Their hangar never had septic system, never had water into it, and he is requesting that SAC charge be certified to his taxes. The intent here is that he will probably pay it off. However, this is the backup that we would have if he doesn't make that personal commitment. So I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 1523.
Also move.
second.
Discussion. Councilman Moore. Councilman Baca.
None.
Williams.
None.
Schmidt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1523 is adopted. And that ends our business for tonight.
Right on the button.
Pretty good. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.